Call this meeting to order. We have stand for the invocation, please. Neil.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless this gathering of one of your most precious creations, Sky Valley. Guide us as counselors who are elected to serve you and serve the people of Sky Valley. Help us to see the needs of the people and for the city. We ask this in your precious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to have the approval of the minutes for July 17th workshop, July 31st preliminary budget work session, August 22nd work session, and August 28th regular council meeting. Have a motion?
I move to accept the approval of minutes as stated.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'd like to have a motion for the adoption of today's agenda.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor's remarks. It's great to see so many people on a rainy day. I guess you can't be out playing golf. You can't work out in the yard. So, and you're not cooking, so I guess this is a good place to be. I want to thank you all for coming. Council's remarks. We'll start with you, Al. Whoop, excuse me. The little one first. I didn't see that.
Just because he hides. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I am extremely frustrated about the events that have transpired with this council since the beginning of this year. Everybody up here made a promise for transparency, but what was the first thing they did after being elected? They went down to see Harrison Merrill without me, or informing me. I do believe this is against the Sunshine Law. Later, I was told I was on the other side. Since I know I'm serving for the best that I can do for Sky Valley, it puzzles me as to the intent of the agenda. It's obvious to me and a number of people that a couple of men had a vendetta against our city manager and brought it to head while I was out of town and had no input. From the conversations that I have had and what I've seen, I still have no clue as to why this council fired, 3 members of this council fired Linda. One had a NAPO. I have seen no evidence that could possibly warrant her dismissal. Nothing but some petty nonsense that was brought up at some council meetings. You may want to review those tapes if you are not in agreement with what I said. A rumor was told that there was a misappropriation of funds. The day after I returned home from out west, I called the firm that does the auditing for the city. I was told there was no evidence to support this rumor from the auditor. It was shameful how you went about firing our city manager. You do not treat employees indecently like that. You did not even give her a chance to defend herself in any of the meetings. Treating someone who served the city of Sky Valley for 17 years like a common criminal. But the past is the past, and I'm going to put that to rest. But the future is one I'm very concerned about. The city of Sky Valley has some very important issues that we must decide upon, because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Since 2015, the cities in Rabun County have not had an intergovernmental agreement with Rabun County. Due to the most recent issue in the Clayton Tribune, Governor Nathan Deal awarded $40 million to 60 Georgia communities in the form of community development block grants. However, all of the cities in Rabun County have been disqualified to submit for any grants from the state because we didn't have an intergovernmental agreement. The city of Clayton and Rabun County have been in a fight since 2016. Clayton has employed a group of attorneys/consultants called SDS Consultants. SDS is a service delivery system which helps with the inequities of double taxation. That can be worked out with an intergovernmental agreement if both the city and the county agree. The role of the consultants, from what I see, is to argue the agreement for a fee for Clayton. The city of Clayton has paid the consultants so far $100,000, $130,000 plus. I believe that's a waste of the city's money, city taxpayer money. Now we have two of our council members taking sides with this battle as Sky Valley representatives. I've read this in the newspaper. I have not been able to find out what the city of Sky Valley has paid to these SDS consultants because the people I've asked don't seem to know. And I, as a taxpayer, and you, as a taxpayer, ought to know what we've done, and we need to have a serious conversation on the matter regarding intergovernmental agreement, SPLOST, special option sales tax, local sales tax, marketing strategy, and our vision for Sky Valley City. Thank you for giving me a chance to voice my concerns.
Well, I'll keep it shorter than that. The city of Sky Valley is going through a change. And there are different sides to why that change is occurring. I understand that, appreciate that. All I'm asking for is for people to try and come together instead of staying apart and being divisive. And to give the interim city manager a chance to put the budget together, which I believe is an important part of our going forward, and then put it to the council so that we can figure out what's going to be best for everybody in Sky Valley. Change is difficult, even if it's good change, and there's a dispute about whether this is good or whether it's not. So it's just be patient. Give Eliphaz the opportunity to look at the budget. There's a lot of rumors going on out there. There's a lot of supposition. There's a lot of misstatements, and that I would like to at least have everybody try and set back a little bit and then let the dust settle and see if we can move forward.
Thank you, Al.
That was good.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see a big crowd here and everybody being involved. Do want to make a couple of comments to Connie's point there. SDS has been I don't know how many meetings, countless meetings that we have been with, and I say we, the county of Rayburn, Clayton, Sky Valley, and every city within Rayburn County has been invited to these meetings. At every single meeting, Rayburn County has held steadfast on the fact they're not giving. They're not, you're paying for roads. We have actually the second largest road system in Rayburn County. You're paying Rayburn County to pave and maintain the roads within Sky Valley. I'm not talking about just Ball Mountain Road, I'm talking about all roads. Because the county road, the only county road we have here runs through this city is Ball Mountain Road. However, when a county road enters into the city limits, the county actually goes back and says they do not have to maintain those roads. And they have maintained Ball Mountain to some extent, but you are paying them to pave those roads. You are also paying Sky Valley, that's double taxation. Like many of you, I've read over the last 3 years the newspaper articles regarding SDS, and frankly, I came up with the opinion that, boy, Clayton must be a real horse's ass. They're really just not getting along, and, how come they can't get along with Rayburn County? Connie, myself, Paul, Linda attended an educational program at the University of Georgia about SDS, and it became very clear that the outline and the law that governs SDS is black and white, but yet everybody wants to interpret it different, and Rayburn County wants to interpret theirs different. So anyway, that's in regards to SDS. In regards to SPLOST, Paul and I met with county mayor, or the mayor, Jordan Green in Clayton, what was that, Paul, about 3 weeks ago, to try to get renegotiated. We were given a proposal at a Rayburn County Commissioners meeting, which basically cut Mountain City's money in half, Clayton's money in half. However, they overpaid the other cities. My big concern, and I'm not sitting here trying to defend Clayton, I'm not trying to defend Mountain City, but I would like to see an agreement be just that, an agreement where everyone can agree. There is a loophole in the SPLOST program. The loophole states that a 53% majority of the municipalities can control how that money is divided. And that's what happened last time. It takes Clayton and one other city in the county of Rayburn can equal or is greater than 53%. However, if each city in Rayburn County join together without the city of Clayton, they have a greater number than 53%. And that's exactly what happened in the last SPLOST. And by that, Rayburn County was able to cut $2 million out of the city of Clayton's SPLOST money, $500,000, possibly even more, out of Mountain City, and put that in their pocket. So far, the SDS consultants, as you mentioned, have also found that there has been a lot of money diverted on county funds from the roads department to fund their water and sewer facility, because the user fees do not cover the operation. They're short. And this is a violation as well. So we are working on it with the other cities and the county. And I hope to get something done as soon as possible. It has been drug out. We had a mediation, it was scheduled for the 17th, and in the final hour, all of a sudden the judge seems to have pulled out on this. A little fishy, but don't know how to go past that one. So anyway, that brings you up to date, and of course, please call me or email me if you have other questions regarding it, but we spent a lot of time educating ourselves as to what's there. You know, trusting what somebody tells you is one thing, but trust and verify it. And I think we've had a lot of that, and that's why we're where we are today in Sky Valley. Thank you.
Are you receptive to a question on what you just said?
No, point of order, no.
Okay, I'm asking.
At the end,
Okay.
there's a time.
Okay, you refer to it.
Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Connie, I don't want to pick at you, what you said, and you certainly had the opportunity to say, but you mentioned as counselors, we went to meet with Harrison Merrill. We were not counselors, and so we were allowed to meet as a group. I'm sorry you were not invited, and I've tried to reach out to you, and I hope we can continue to do that. So I'm always available if you have a question about anything, as I've told you before. I have an open door and a telephone that rings. So, and I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. And thank you, Paul, to
And
Al.
thank you all for being here.
Paul?
Thank you. Yeah, Connie, I'm available too with any questions or phone calls or emails. I haven't gotten any, but you're welcome to ask me a question if you don't know. I'd like to yield my time on the floor to you to ask a question.
Okay.
My question relates to the SPOS and SDS. I know that, looking at the meeting minutes, you had Clayton up here one time to explain their side of the controversy, and you have, stated what you think is what has happened, but you haven't had Clayton up here to explain to this community, Raymond County up here to explain to this community their side.
Yeah, Darren Giles came up and gave a
Darren was
presentation.
here?
He did.
Yeah, he sure did.
And he's been here
Thank you for,
twice.
that's good. Thank you for your concern on that.
And,
All right, I'm done. Thanks. Go ahead.
You done?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Turn it back to you.
All right, down to new business. Department reports.
I have put the actual police department reports, some of the tax reports, and also the building inspector's report. But I also have included a flyer for Fall Fest. I know that's been a question if we are moving forward. We are moving forward. I've already been in contact with vendors. I've been in contact with the bands and different people that plan to be here. We are moving the event. We are moving it to the city pavilion. We'll be closing the road that day, and we will have vendors on both sides. And we're looking for a great crowd. Staff has been super excited trying to get this moving forward. We've already started on hay bales, as most of you have seen. The garden club has already started decorating, and they've been a big help to us trying to move forward with this. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And also, we are looking for volunteers that day as well, because we cannot do it without the help of the community.
Thank you. Under the new business, we have a request from Louise Kale on a tree ordinance. She has some large trees behind her house. We've all seen their pictures, and it is very expensive and practically impossible to haul the trees out. She wants permission to just cut them and leave them. It's on her own property. And so I would like to have the council make comments on it, or have a motion to award Louise Kale permission to have her trees chopped and left in place.
I so move because I understand that's also an erosion help thing. No, I'm not saying it right, but it helps with the erosion on a hill. So I make the motion.
I second it.
Moved and second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? So carried. Now, we have the same request from Hank and Joe Kelly on Buttermilk Circle. The same problem. And it's the same results. It's all on their own property. And so I'd like to have a motion to grant them also.
I make the motion for them to grant, to have the ordinance waived.
I second it.
Been moved and second. Have a vote, all those in favor? Any opposed? If not, so carried. We have a search committee appointed by the mayor and the charter for the new city manager has to be approved by the council. The people on the search committee is the mayor, myself, the president of the council, Durko, one council member, Al Pondakowski, and 2 citizens, Moody Berry and Debbie Curtis. I'd like to have a motion from the council to accept this nominating committee.
I so move.
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any questions? If not, have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a public forum and general comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Sky Valley Property Owners Association is hosting a candidates forum. We have 3 candidates to fill 2 seats on city council. The election is November 6th. We've had a lot of scheduling challenges because all 3 people are very busy. But please know and share with your neighbors that we have scheduled Sunday, October 14, 3 p.m. here in the CBC, the sanctuary, to have the candidates, each candidate will answer the same questions posed by a moderator from the Property Owners Association board, and it will deal with issues that I think are on all our minds. No one knows those questions except the moderator, and we will find out on that day what the questions are and what the answers are. Yes, sir.
Normally in years past, we had those, we also had an additional moderator who had no dog in the fight.
Would you like to be that moderator?
No. Somebody from outside of Sky Valley. We used to bring in Catherine Granberg, the current publisher of the newspaper, is doing one. I know in Clayton.
Okay.
To me, it's always good to have somebody who is not intensely, doesn't really care who wins.
That is an excellent question. I'm a newbie. I didn't know the history. I will forward that to the POA board, and we'll try to find someone. If you know of anyone who would like to do that, that would be terrific.
Well, you might contact Catherine. I think her health was probably good enough now that she may be able to do it again. She's been very involved.
Okay,
There's several others very involved with county politics.
okay, Catherine, and,
Would be good to bring in.
all right. That is a great suggestion. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay, thank you very much.
Milt, thanks for bringing that up.
Mr. Mayor, my point that I was not allowed to make earlier is that you had the mayor of Clayton up here, but you didn't have Greg James, chairman of the county commission, who has been around since the beginning of the controversy to explain the Raven County side.
Thank you, I apologize that you weren't able to finish a little minute ago.
Yeah,
I apologize to as well.
Appreciate that. We did invite Greg up, and he's not wanting to come. I invited him personally at one of the meetings down at the Raven County Courthouse.
But I do want to explain to you one of the main reasons why Clayton was here that day was that Raven County is putting out that all the cities have been in agreement, and that is not true.
Well, you know, when you make statements like that, it would be good to have a representative from the other side to say, present their side of it. And Greg James will come here. I think you should have him at the next meeting to explain the county side, because all I'm hearing, talked about here is Clayton, and Sky Valley has a lot more benefit from working with the county than to do with Clayton, because the county can actually do things for us that Clayton cannot do, and y'all were not elected to represent Clayton, you were represented to elect to represent Sky Valley.
Have you been speaking with Greg about that?
Do what?
Have you been speaking with Greg
No, I
about
have
that?
not. No,
It
no.
sounded like you're pretty sure he would come up, so that's helpful to know.
Well, I got
would
a
you get in
church with
touch
him, and I
with
think I could ask him if he comes, so,
You go to church with him?
Yeah.
And Darren?
yeah.
Ella, we get in touch with Greg James and send
Sure.
an invitation to come to the next workshop.
No, I would be more than happy for the public to hear their side of the story, because we, like I said, we've been in several meetings with them. And, actually, there's been new case law since we've started with this thing, which is basically, Greene County, Greensboro, Georgia.
Well, Clayton lost their first appeal in court, you know, and I don't think anything's changed since then.
That was actually an appeal in court about a water and sewer system, which we don't have a dog in that water and sewer fight. We do have commonalities.
It's
with-
part of the system delivery strategy.
Pardon me?
It's part of the strategy. The North Loop of the water system is part of the strategy that you have to agree to. That's the reason we
Well, you
Aren't
do
allowed
understand
to
that each
apply for
city
that.
has its own individual inequities. It's not like it's a blanket scenario where every city has the exact same issues. In other words, Sky Valley does not have a water and sewer system that the county of Raven is actually trying to take over.
Well, I think if you advertise that the county's gonna be here, you'll get a larger group of people who want to hear. The community wants to know both sides, so they can decide who's right, you know.
Yeah, we gave a pretty detailed, and was it the August 22nd work session where we went over, brought up the details exactly where we were with, we as a council, they were gonna offer 10% more. And then we got Ed's email saying, no, they're up to 400, which he said he got from his friend, that I guess got it at church, I don't know. Kind of caught us off guard. So,
I've been working with the county as mayor, I did for 4 years, so I know them well.
Okay.
They are.
Just as long as you know you don't have the authority
They
to
call me for
negotiate with
information,
the
I call
city
them
at
for
this point.
information. It's an open record state, so you can do that.
Anyway, thank you for your thoughts, and we'll see what we can do about getting the county to come
Bob,
join us.
Jack Bell wanted to ask a question at the last
Yeah,
meeting and
I
didn't
got
get a
it.
chance.
Chair moves. My concern is the waterway and the dam. I drive by there every day. It's the ugliest, most god-awful looking place you ever saw. The other city council cleaned it up to a spot, which is very pretty. And from there to the dam, and I have dealt with dams before that tried to blow on my property, it's a mess, let me tell you what. I think you should get in touch with the State Department, have them come and check the dam, have them come in, and then I think y'all need to clean out that waterway so the water can clean. And that beautiful pond over there is now filling up with silt from the mountains, and we've got islands in there that they mow all the time. Come on, y'all, give me a break. Get the silt out of there, clean the ditch out, and fix the dam. Thank you.
I agree with you, and I've asked at your last, request, that James clean that up through there, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. At the same time, the city,
And I
I
understand it belongs to Merrill.
was gonna say, and the bid to do that was $250,000. So I don't know how the public
Just to
wants,
clean out the ditch.
no, to redo the pond you're
Well, I,
talking
no,
about
no,
over there.
forget that.
Oh, you're talking about just cleaning
If
it?
you just cleaned out from the walkway, the new little bridge,
Right, back to the dam.
yeah, and then you could cut the timber in there, it's horrible.
Right, and I spoke to James and asked him to please get with Ella about that, and Ella, if you will please follow up with that, because he said that he could very well fit that in, and I thought that it would certainly be something, with the Fall Fest now being moved over to the city park, because we don't have the use of the croquet lawns anymore, then, that would certainly enhance what's there, so I agree with
It
you.
just looks so trashy.
Hopefully we can get that done.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Gil Aldridge. I've been in Sky Valley over 15 years. I live at the corner of Saddleback and Sugar Bush. I admire the job that some folks are doing. I appreciate your talking about transparency and involving people. But Mr. Mayor, City Council, I think it's time for you to step up to the plate like a man and tell us why you fired Linda. Rumors are running rampant. Auditors have been called in. If you want to put this to rest and put it behind us, whether we agree with what you voted to do or not, at least we'll know why. Secrecy breeds mistrust. Thank you.
I would like to answer that if I
Yeah.
could. My name's Doug Kidd, I'm the city attorney. And I agree that there doesn't seem to have been much information put out there. What happened was Ms. Lapierus was the city manager and she had an employment agreement with the city. It was a contract. That contract, I'm not sure if any of y'all have seen it or if even the newspaper report has seen it, expired in January of 2019. So her term here was up per her contract in January. Per the terms of her contract, I believe, if we were going to renegotiate with her and extend the term out, or if we were going to cut her loose and look elsewhere, we had to give her 60 days notice. So from January, 60 days prior to that would be October or so. So the city had until October to make a decision whether to negotiate and redraft a brand new employment agreement, have it in place by October, or go ahead and decide we may want to look for somebody else. So at that point, the city council, we met and discussed and we went line by line with that employment agreement and looked at it, every single term that it had. I think her employment agreement was 8 or 10 pages long. And we went over it, and at that point, the council as a group decided that they wanted to look and see what else was out there. And so at that point, as they had the right and duty under the contract to do, they could terminate her without cause. So she wasn't fired, it was just they didn't want to continue the contract and they were going to let it expire. And in fact, instead of just letting it go in January and holding her out and stringing her along until January, they elected to go ahead and pay her her full severance as negotiated by Ms. Lapierus in the city several years prior. And so the city cut her a check for, I don't have the amount of money, but it was part of the severance. I think it was section 10 and section 5 of her employment agreement that said that she would get paid for the salary from September when she was let go until January, full salary. She also got paid for any accrued vacation, sick days, everything else. It was her full severance that she had negotiated with the city. It was a contract. She had negotiated probably 4 years prior, I think. I don't have it in front of me, but it was several years ago. So she negotiated it, and at that time, that was, she was okay with that agreement. The city was okay with that agreement. So that's what happened, was that the city was looking, and the agreement was going to expire in January. They had to give notice by October whether to keep her and add her for another 2-year term, or to find somebody else. The council decided to look around and see what else was out there. That's a policy decision. It may be a good policy decision, it may be a bad policy decision. Time will tell on that. But legally, the city had the rights and duties under that contract to do that.
Was she doing that bad a job?
You know, that's the thing, is that city attorneys and city managers and city clerks really all serve at the pleasure of the council. The council can let folks go if they want to, if their employment agreement says that. That's the deal that Ms. Lapierus negotiated 4 years ago when the contract was initially signed, that allowed the city to let her go at any time so long as they paid the full severance. They did that. Whether that's a good decision or not, I don't know. Y'all can decide, the council can decide. But that's, I mean, she was paid what she negotiated in that contract. She was not shortchanged a penny in what she had negotiated. Now, I've only been here since, I think, March. My dealings with Ms. Lapierus were fine. I thought she was knowledgeable. She was very nice. I wasn't up here all the time, so I don't know everything. I think she was fine. But the city was within its legal rights to let her go because they paid the full severance.
Then how did, within an hour of that decision being dumped on us, people in the parking lot who are not on council were yapping about how, well, she was fired for cause because she misappropriated funds, she would, you know, I mean, there were people who are not on council, not privy to the confidentiality, people who were yapping about how bad she was and how she deserved to be fired.
Well, if they weren't on council and weren't creating information, why did anybody listen to them?
What?
Certainly, why did you listen to
We
that?
don't know whether it's,
I mean,
Well, because we hadn't heard anything from the
We hadn't
council to
heard
the contrary.
You had heard that we fired her with, or terminated her with cause? I mean, without cause?
Without cause.
No, but what the people, a couple of people who are high profile, talking about, oh yeah, she was fired for cause.
Well, that's the thing is, I've been here since March, and I've heard the same things y'all have, and I have no idea where these things come from. It's a small town, people mishear things or they flat out make it up. It happens. But the only information that the city had released was what I authorized them to release, was that we were exercising the clause in the contract and terminating her without cause. I had instructed the mayor and the council to be tight-lipped about it, because typically in employment situations, the less said, the better, because you don't want hurt feelings, you don't want anything said that may you regret. So I told them just to do what was legally authorized to get this in place, and then say no more. So,
If you have an employee that is doing a good job, but you feel there's a soft spot here or there, it's incumbent on management and supervision to counsel with them. It's a whole lot easier to counsel, to send for more training than it is to get out here and beat the bushes and find somebody. I remember when you let Moody go and you brought someone in and you thought this guy could walk on water. I think he lasted 2 years. It's a lot easier to fix it than it is to go out and hunt somebody and try to bring them up to full speed, the way we do it. The problem is, you got some folks sitting right here who want to micromanage.
I appreciate your explanation of that, but in no way does that give us a clue as to why these three gentlemen voted to fire her.
Doug, can I mean, I have reasons. I wanted to fire her with cause and have it
Well,
right here.
tell
I
us.
wanted
Tell
to,
us.
I'm trying to
Tell
ask
us.
the attorney a question.
here's the thing. Anytime, y'all have probably sat on groups or committees, and a group or a committee can make a decision, that's one decision as a group or a committee, but if there's 10 people on the committee, they all have 10 different reasons for making that decision, even though they ultimately vote yes or no on one thing. That's what happened here. Some people wanted to just see what else was out there. Some people wanted to get rid of her personally. Some people wanted to get rid of her because they thought she had done wrong at her job. There was no one singular issue that all members of the council and mayor agreed on. They all had their own little reasons, most benign, some not. But ultimately, when they decided to go ahead and exercise their rights under the contract, it was for without cause, which means there's no reason given that would have said she was at fault for it. Okay, that was what they ultimately decided, was that saying she was without fault and they were just terminating the contract because they wanted to find someone else. Go ahead.
Well,
I'll ask a question. If, as an attorney,
Yes, sir.
you advise them to terminate her without cause, if they terminated her with cause, would she still get the same benefits?
No, and when we met in executive session, I'll just go ahead and say this, we went through the employment contract line by line, and explained it, and I answered questions, and there was, as an attorney, trying to explain what with cause and without cause meant. If, in speaking just in the employment contract that she had, if you had fired her or any other person that had a contract similar to that with cause, they wouldn't have gotten the severance. They would have been gone and out of here and hadn't received a penny. Instead,
But, excuse me, but if that was the case, then they would have more of a chance to defend themselves if there was material things that she was being fired for.
right,
You still
and there was
have
not, and there was no
council
evidence
still
taken
determine.
during executive session. In fact, ultimately, the council agreed just to let it go as without cause.
Do you think, I'd like to know from the general public, do you think if we were to expose the causes, that would be in the best interest of Linda and her future?
No.
I do not know. I believe me, because I have put myself in your position and going, damn, I want to know what's going on.
What do you think?
So, the point is, yeah, we lay it all out I can promise you, it's not going to be to her benefit. And I don't know how to tell you anything else, but I mean, the best thing in the world that we felt we could do was for us to go with without cause. Why come out here and have to lay out all of the items that were based there? It may make you all feel better as taxpayers, and I agree with you. But Linda deserves a future. Why damage it?
I think a lot of the concern is the way it was handled. You're absolutely within your rights. You followed the contract. It is best for the future of any employee who is terminated, not to drag their name through the mud. But the way it was handled is what has a lot of people concerned.
How else could we have handled it?
I think by having the full council in on the discussion would
I
have
don't
been.
think that would make any difference. You've got to remember, just 3 people could do the same thing.
It would have looked better.
Well, at the time,
There were issues
somebody was
that were
on
time
vacation.
sensitive. I'm sorry.
There was, I mean, it's like I said, we had until October to make that decision, so we either had to do it at the August meeting or the September meeting, and so.
And I think what you're referring to is why we did this while Connie was here. Had nothing to do with Connie. Running a city, it doesn't matter. Everybody up here is a council and as a mayor, we have to run a city. We have to run a city based on the timelines and the things that come up. And we can't sit here and say, well, let's just press the hold button on the city and we'll put everything on hold until, you know, if that were possible, that would have been fine. But there were timeline issues that overrode that.
The word that got out, and I was out of town, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that at the August 22nd workshop, where no action should be taken, after that, Linda was escorted to her office and told to clean it out. Now, maybe that's a rumor.
That happened.
Doug can answer
That
that
is,
question.
no action should be taken at a workshop.
There was no action taken, however, at the workshop, I was in there and I could see where they were going on that. I went out and talked to Linda myself and told her that that's probably where they were going on that, because I think they had a workshop on a Tuesday, and we were gonna come back following either Monday or Tuesday, and the council was gonna vote and make it official at that point. I just told her that it looked like it was going that way. She could, work the rest of the week, but that'd be awfully awkward, or she could get paid for the rest of the week and go ahead and just clean her stuff out. So I did tell her that. But yeah, no official action been taken. But, you know, based on what I heard at the workshop and the way that the reading of the contract was, I told her that that's the way that it looked like it was going, and that we were gonna pay her for the rest of the week and she could stay home.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's so much divisiveness among us. And I think a lot of it was exacerbated with the firing of Linda and the way it was done. Now, you go to the scene of the accident and everybody sees something differently. I mean, I took so many claim reports and you're like, and this was a blue car, this was a red car. I mean, this is kind of what we have going on here. But, you know, and then there was an open records request for lost, I think, right, records going back to, what, 2002? And that could not be produced from the rumors I heard. But I've attended enough council meetings to know when Mandy, former city clerk, she was here, there was a changeover of the accounting system. And from what I've also heard, that it was, I don't know if things were lost, but it was a very difficult time for the city to catch up. Maybe the former mayor can answer to that question. But, you know, all in all, you see, not all of you, but you see things one way, we see things another. Mr. Attorney, sir, you have mentioned that Linda was fired for it. There were things in her past that were benign, some not so benign, okay? And we don't...
Things that were alleged.
Okay. And relationships not a good word.
And this was, and this is individual, this was not stuff talked about in executive session. Council members talk to each other outside and one-on-one and things like that, not a quorum. And some of them talk to me, and they run things by, I hear it and I'll be like, no, and this doesn't have to be limited to any situation.
Right.
And I'll say, no, there's nothing there, or maybe we need to look into that or something like that. So yeah, you hear things like that.
Right, I did approach two council members after the meeting, our last workshop. And I said the same sort, that we've all heard the story that Linda was fired for misappropriation of funds. And I said, I do not believe that in a minute. And both these council gentlemen, they agreed, that was it. And then, but then kind of a benign thing, but maybe not so benign, you have an insurance issue. What about certificates of insurance for all independent contractors? Now, in Florida, and I don't know Georgia law, that's why you're here, you can file a certificate of exemption if you're a sole proprietor. You still may have some liability issues, but I'd say probably 90% of the people in this room hire a landscaper that is not insured. So, this is a common practice. I just want, my point is, and this is nothing against the Tribune, but, we did it ourselves. And the fact that, we made headlines, city manager fired. Now, how is that going to help our marketing ability? That does nothing for, we need our property values up. And, if I'm about to buy a house and I see this headline, I'm thinking, what in the world is going on there? So, I ask all of you, look at both sides before you make a decision. And I also feel that Linda was never given the opportunity to tell her side. And that was what I think upset so many of us. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, related to the 2002 SPLOST, everybody here that was here in 2002 knows that we voted, the council voted to redo the water system, and they did that with SPLOST for that period and with loan to grant. And that's how the water system got done. And also, everybody that's here knows that the last SPLOST was 100% spent on paving. There's never been any question about any of that. Relative to whether or not there's misappropriation of funds, Linda was here for a long time. In the last 6 years, we were audited by 3 different audit firms, which is a good thing. It's recommended to change every couple of years. Well, none of them ever found anything wrong, and that's their job, is to come in here and find something wrong. There was nothing wrong. There never has been anything wrong. And I think everybody knows that, but I think it's inherent upon you, if you had proof that there's misappropriation of funds, that you fire with cause and let people know what it was.
Absolutely.
I
Where did the
That's what I
misappropriations of funds ever come from? We've never said that.
Because that's
Is
a serious allegation.
that your words, Skule, or?
No.
Did y'all ever sit down with Linda and discuss with her before you decided not to renew her contract what the problems were?
That's not what I said. I said, why do y'all keep saying misappropriation of funds? That was never brought up. But y'all keep bringing up, like, if it's misappropriations of funds, that, none of us has ever.
That's what's circulating in the community. That's the reason people are asking.
Let me ask you a question. I wasn't at the last workshop, but someone had said that you had made a comment in there about the misappropriation of funds in that workshop. Maybe explain yourself what you meant by that.
Which workshop?
The last workshop. The one, it was a budget workshop.
What I said was we've been given an open records request, and that the files that we were looking for, which should be separate SPLOST money files, were non-existent. Also said that I'd found a capital projects account that at one time had been open and now it's closed. Maybe that's where some of the SPLOST money went in and out of. I never said anything about misappropriating funds. If you understood when you said that,
well,
I wasn't my tip.
That was just, again, that's how rumors get started, and I just want to.
Well, just call it and verify me. I'm never.
Dealing with personnel issues is really difficult to do. For one thing, it's kind of like she has a contract, you didn't want to review her contract for whatever reasons, but you did it without intimidating her or. But the question I have, once you do that, is the way that you communicate to the community. Because the community right now, it was all word of mouth, rumors, and misinformation. But as yet, the council has not gone out with any type of formal communication.
As far as
on the
rumors
fact that she
go-
was fired.
As far as rumors go, we can't do anything about rumors. Now, if you got the facts, you want facts, you can. There's certain things we can't, as our attorney said, we did this for her sake. So she would have a chance to get out of the,
Fair enough, Bob. I agree with that.
Okay, so that right there should just end the whole thing. It shouldn't hear this, well, the rumor said this, or the rumor said that. Forget that.
My
I
question
mean,
though.
if you're gonna spread rumors, then go ahead and spread them. But don't come in here and start saying all this stuff to the council, because this council is doing a good job. And they were not looking to crucify anybody.
Bob, excuse me, but that was not my question. My point was why the council didn't put out some type of formal notice to the citizens of what took place.
I can answer Ed's question on that. Let me answer Ed's question. It would be because we've just got, the contract wasn't straightforward. There's a lot of ambiguity in the contract. Things have come to light since Linda's gone, and I had to call in an attorney that can we quit the with cause, quit the without cause, go back and fire with cause, in light of what we found since she's been gone. Okay?
Barbara.
You wanna know why rumors
That's where
are?
rumors
That's a rumor starter right there.
I'm not starting a rumor, I'm just saying what I asked.
Barbara.
Excuse
Well,
me,
you're making.
excuse me. The mayor has recognized me. Thank you. This little city has been ramped with rumors. Linda Sloop can tell you that. I can tell you that. A lot of other people can tell you about rumors in this city, if you know the history. The only thing I want to share, and I don't know what happened, and I will never know. The only thing I will share is this. I talked to Linda Laperouse while you were in executive session at the meeting. And I said to her, Linda, do you really want to continue to be the city manager? She looked at me and said, if they buy out my contract, I'm okay with it. To me, this is a grown woman who is a career woman who is negotiating money with her employer. Unless she was lying to me, which I don't think she was, maybe she was, but she said, if they buy out my contract, I'm okay with it. I think it's time to pull this back and let's not believe everything we hear. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
I suggest that we follow Barbara's recommendation and put that behind us and look at what we have in the city currently. You all have been saying that there's nothing out there. There's something right there. Ella and Elisa have been doing a fine job. Our city crews, our police chief, have been doing a fine job since all of this has come down. That, people, is the bottom line. There is something out there, and we are part of it, and we need to support them because they are here now.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you.
I'd like
I'd
to
like to
say,
make one last statement, or one statement. I just want to say, whether you believe it or not, we appreciate your attendance, your comments, trying to keep everything as transparent as we can do so under government. And that I appreciate your interest in the city, and we want to see more of you active in the city, and that includes running for office. So this is not a job that, people say it's a thankless job, and that doesn't make any difference. It's a duty, and it's a service. If you love your city and you love your neighbors, you don't have to agree on everything. But you can agree to disagree and continue to try to put your city first. And as Susie just said, we have some fine workers, and don't forget that. And we're trying to do what best we can for them and to continue the services that you receive and you expect to receive. And budget time, and it's gonna be difficult to get everything that everybody wants with the monies we have. But we'll work hard to do that. And we're gonna be transparent in our workshops. So come and express your ideas, and we're always open, as you see, to hear. And we thank you for the trust that you put in us.
Thank you, Neil.
Again,
Al?
You know, I'm just sitting here listening to everybody, and everybody's got valid opinions, even if it's based on rumors. And the council had spent a lot of time discussing the city manager, not just in a week. It was stuff that started, there were issues that started at the beginning of the year. What they are at this point aren't relative. I think what the important thing that I'm getting out of today is that everybody's had the opportunity to stand up and speak your mind, whether it was based on fact, on dollars and cents, or whether it was based on a rumor that you heard about something that didn't happen. But I think that venting is important and is necessary. And I also think that if you walk out of here and think about what Doug Kidd said, as far as his explanation is representing the city, then maybe you can factor that all in together and say that, okay, it's a done deal, and we need to move forward.
Move on.
I'd like to say one thing, and I will say nothing else, is that I would like to see a dialogue between the council and the people regarding SPLOST, IGA, and open dialogue. These are things that, like Connie said, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't think anybody in here can put a number on it yet. And until we get to that point, or close to that point, then I think we need to discuss it before we go hiring SDS attorneys and get the city, hand them a blank check. We're the taxpayers, you too, are affected, or we come to a point where we've got to raise taxes, 25, 30, 50% on our property taxes, which that's not going to help our property values at all. Until we really come to an agreement on this, that we do our research and talk to people, and everybody needs to get involved in this decision.
I'd like to speak to that, Bob, and I totally agree with you. And I have put out a ton of information about both subjects. And if you go to my website and look under current events, you will find more information, more documentation, more videos. You'll even find the entire class that Connie and all of us attended. There's more information has been out there since the first of the year. I cannot, as they say, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. I can provide the information to the public. If you don't want to read it, I can't stop you from that. So please know, when you get home, pull it up, go look at it, read it. It's there.
And
Then come to our workshop.
the video of the August 22nd work session, we went, there was a packed room in here, and we did talk about it as a group. I thought we brought everybody up to date. I agree with it, yeah.
So anyway, but your educational documents are all there.
Yeah.
And I have read it, and it is lots of detail, and I guess the only question I have is, or two questions,
Well,
really.
I appreciate it.
Well, you put a lot of detail, you got the spreadsheets in there, you showed, it's a lot of information. But what is our expectation, I guess, at this point by marrying up with Clayton and getting to the 52 or 53%? Do you see that that's what, do you think that will end up getting us more money? Or is it more of a benefit to Clayton in taking care of their needs with more money?
As I said earlier, my opinion, it does appear that it's about Clayton, but it's not about Clayton. There are two cities that, in my opinion, are being taken advantage of severely, and that is Clayton and Mountain City. Both of them, as I say, in the last one, Clayton got 0, Mountain City took 50%. Now, an agreement is what? An agreement. Whether it's one of us, two of us, or three of us sit down and we all come to an agreement and we all sign it, correct? Well, how would you like it if 2 or 3 of your neighbors got together and said, well, let's just take, for example, there's 4 people sitting here and there's a $100 bill, and it's to be split 4 ways. But there's a way over here that 3 of us can screw Ed Morley out of not getting a dime. We're gonna take Ed's money away from him. That's not the kind of city I hope I live in. I wanna live in a city that sit here and said, okay, Ed says, well, I don't have to have all 25 of my dollars. I can do with 15 because I think 10 of it would be better spent over here. That's great, and that's called an agreement. But SPLOST is not being operated as an agreement. It's being operated as a mandate. Now, go back and you look at the spreadsheets. If you look at the spreadsheets on the SPLOST and the last one, it put them approximately, well, exactly, $2.4 million in the coffers of Rayburn County that they would not have otherwise had. Rayburn County, just like each of the cities, is during the time that we do not have an intergovernmental agreement, cannot apply for grants and so forth. Well, guess what? If Sky Valley had an extra $2.4 million in our coffers because we screwed somebody else, all right, that's great. We don't have to worry about grants. They didn't have to worry about it. They had the extra $2.4 million to make up their own losses. Make sense?
Well, but you're leaving out the part as to why Clayton didn't get any money in the last splash. My understanding was it wasn't because the other cities teamed up and took it away from him. But my understanding was Clayton wouldn't agree to do some things with that money that the county thought they should do. Now, I may not be totally straight on that, but what we do know is the city of Clayton has a serious problem with the loss of water, and their infrastructure is in pretty bad shape. And so the thinking is if the county's going to do something and give them money, they need to give them some money to fix their water system. They're losing, I'm told 60% of their water never makes it to the homes because of the poor infrastructure. Now, having said all of that, go back to you set I guess a strategy maybe to work with them, but tell us how that's going to benefit. Do you expect that's going to benefit us more or not?
Okay. If you go back again to the information that I posted on the website, County Commissioner Bob Fink laid it out there pretty clear in the Rotary meeting, which was printed in the paper. Thank you. 5 county commissioners took it upon themselves to punish 5 city council members. And that's how you got where you were. It wasn't that Clayton wouldn't do this or Clayton wouldn't do that.
And I'm not debating that. I guess my point, though, is there's obviously a disagreement between Clayton and Rayburn County, which has been going on and has been impacting us because of the $40 million in grants we're not eligible for. It seems like we would want to kind of stay out of that fray and try to do the best deal we can without getting in the face, if you would, of Rayburn County.
All right. Let me clear one thing out that I think.
Yeah, you're mingling a couple different things.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing I just recognized is we're having 2 concurrent conversations. One is SPLOST, and this water issue you're talking about is SDS. One has nothing to do with the other. The only reason that Rayburn County tries to tie the 2 together is if they can use SPLOST by offering to deprive or give more money to people to go along with them on another topic, which is SDS. So it's Rayburn County who's put the two topics together.
And I fully understand.
You do, okay. All right, so the water issue and all of this goes back to the double taxation and the inequities there. That's an SDS issue. Now, we're not with Clayton on an SDS issue. Yes, we are working with Clayton because they have been kind enough to allow us to piggyback with their attorney system. So we have not had the expense that we would have taken if we'd have done that otherwise. Now, from that, they have their list of SDS items of inequities. We have a totally separate list. In fact, we have a greater list than they do. So those are both being addressed. Now, the common issues are the common issues, okay? But one doesn't have to do with the SPLOST. Okay. Does that kind of clear up the water thing? 'Cause
Well, but my question though is with the strategy that you're working on, we know that they've made some, you now have specific offers from the county as to what potentially we could get money-wise?
Well, we did finally, and that was another thing that was going on. There were rumors of all these different numbers flying around. And I know that we have begged and begged and begged to get something in writing. There is now something in
Well, there
writing.
were some verbal numbers given to you on SDS, what they offered as verbally, I guess, and then you asked for that to be put in writing. Don't know whether you
No,
got it.
not
in writing.
SDS now. I'm not talking about SDS, I'm talking about SPLOST.
Okay. I thought SDS was the same thing. We've gotten that in writing, what they're willing to,
On SDS or SPLOST?
either one.
We have nothing on SDS.
Okay.
That's why SDS was supposed to be in mediation on the 17th, 18th, and possibly the 19th.
But we have some verbal numbers. My question, though, is the strategy that we're taking now, do you anticipate that that will allow us to get more money than what we would have gotten before?
What we're entitled to.
Regarding,
Well, it's negotiation, I think.
you can say just yes to that.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
Yes,
it's,
okay.
yeah. Overall, in the long run, yeah.
So you're saying you have nothing in writing on SDS from the county at all?
nothing in writing.
We've got that one, just a letter, not a formal thing, but it wasn't accepted and we pushed it in mediation.
Oh, I think you're referring to the letter that we went back to them. They came to us and said we refused $60,000 for the fire department, which
So
is,
did they have anything in writing when they came to that meeting?
I don't recall that at all.
No, that letter
That was
was,
actually, no, that was, he's referring to the meeting where we met with Arbiter and Darren here.
no.
And that was just a verbal conversation. There were really no numbers that I remember being discussed in that at all. It was more or less, what items, I mean, there's about, about 45 items on SDS that, well, you know this, you've been through it, I'm sure. But there's 45 items of services. When I say items, that means services that are either being provided by the county or by the city. Currently, most of these services are being provided and paid for. You're paying two people for it. Okay. They did come back and send us a letter stating that we refused the $60,000 for the fire department. What they didn't bother to tell you in that letter, which was, and did not happen, was in the meeting, they came back and said, well, what if we were to consider giving you a check for $60,000? Would that be acceptable? And that was on the one item at the time. The caveat was that they were going to take the balance of the unincorporated Rayburn County up here, and that Sky Valley would have to cover those fees because they were going to quit paying for their portion of the county. Now, it's not up to Sky Valley to pay for fire services for Heatherstone and the rest of Ball Mountain Road. Okay? So, did we deny this? Well, we weren't made an offer. There was only two of us there. But I will say that I made the statement, in theory, if you're gonna give us 60 grand and then turn around and give us the liability of paying for your portion of the county, I don't see where I could agree with that. Okay?
That's the reason when we're having these kind of discussions, it would be good if
Yeah.
the people had heard directly from the head of the county and directly from the head of the city, then we would have more information and more knowledge of what we're talking about. Mr. Mayor, there is one thing I think very important in the form of a rumor that's going around, and we need to clear it up. And that is that the city's broke. That's circulating like crazy. And it's circulating because certain people who should know have circulated information that was not true. When we had the auditors present the audit report here, and I was here, y'all were here, the question was asked, do we have enough fund balance in the general fund? She said you have 3.5 times more than the Georgia Municipal Association recommends. And you have $715,000 in the bank, in the general fund. You got $800,000 in the bank in the enterprise fund. So the city of Sky Valley is not broke, okay? And everybody needs to know that.
Prior to Linda leaving, she finally went down at our request to put down the numbers. No, we don't know at this point what the real numbers are, but we are efforting that. I know Ella's working through that right now. And I don't remember what date this was put out, the general fund. And Huey, you talked of $700,000 and $600,000
That's what
bills.
the audit report said.
And I agree with you. However, when you take the 600, as Linda's laid out here, $604,000 in assets, owed to the general fund, $16,000. Fund balance for emergency reserves, $300,000, which you had actually recommended $600, and I would love for it to be there, but she since had to lower it to $300. Your fund balance assigned and depreciation of $263,000 leaves actually an remaining unrestricted fund assets of $57,000.
Chip, you're picking out numbers off a spreadsheet. Rely on independent audited information, which you had at December 31st of last year, presented to you in May, and those were the actual numbers at that time. Now, if you've lost $400,000 since then, I don't have any, information about that, but I know what the audit report said at December 31st of last year.
Well, Keith, I appreciate what you're trying to convince the public of, but let's do this. As a CPA, I believe that's what you are, correct?
That's right.
All right. As an independent business owner, I have a CPA and I provide him information to put together my tax reports, audits, whatever I do. In other words, he is only able to work with, and you with your clients, you took what? The information that they provided you, right, wrong, or indifferent, and that's all you had to work with.
We didn't have a tax return done, Chip. We had an audit report done, and that's not, you don't supply them with information. They come in and dig through every single thing you've got, every computer you've got, your bank account, who signed checks, look at the vendors that the money was paid to. I mean, I did it my whole career, so it's not doing a tax return. An audit is something totally different. You have to validate what you put down in that report.
All right. Is it not a fact that what they look at is $5,000 or greater?
They can pick a sample of any portion of the financial information they want to, and they can set the parameters anywhere they want to.
The people doing audit auditor, I asked her that, the lady, and she said, I don't look at anything below $5,000, and you can't afford to have me do such. So I did get a detailed inquiry of all the 2017, and I've looked at everything.
So when you look at
So what you're implying that the audit firm from Gainesville, which is one of the best, is known to be the best municipal auditing firm in North Georgia, presented you with an audit report where they had verified all the information and it's wrong.
Yeah,
you
I
can sue them.
we have some questions. I can give you an example. When I was going through all those expenditures less than 5,000, it was reported that we spent $155,000, I think, in the city park. When I went through all those expenditures less than 5,000, my numbers showed close to about 198,000. So I do have a question about what we need to do ordinance-wise to show the true reflection of what was spent there. Was the auditor wrong? No, they were going by what we gave them and how things were coded. So,
We can make a public
you can
records
s-
request for that information, we can verify.
do what?
We can make a public records request for the information, so we can verify what you say.
Sure, please do, man. That'll be helpful. Very helpful. Especially coming from authority, a former mayor. I think that'll give us what we need.
So, I guess what's the bottom line here, though? Is the city in financial trouble?
Yeah, and how can you be setting a budget when you don't know how much money we have?
Well, excuse me, we hadn't set a budget yet, and now we're trying to get her,
No, I understand that.
she's trying to get accurate figures, realistic figures, unlike what we were given to deal with.
Well, okay, and how is Ella progressing in that?
I'm actually, I was able to complete revenues as of yesterday, and I'll be working on expenditures, and hopefully we'll have something out by the end of the week.
Right, that's good, thank you very much.
There are two types of audits, and you're very familiar with them. And for the club, for example, we have an audit done every year on our books, expenditures, etc. But they use the numbers we provide, and then they always write something at the bottom that this is based on the numbers you furnished to. There's another type of audit, which quite frankly the club can't afford, which goes through every detail. Is that what the city does?
Yes.
Or, well, what they do is they write on our audit that this is based on the numbers you furnished us. It is an unverified audit. The city has an unverified audit. I don't know. I'm just telling you the difference.
They have a detailed municipal audit required by the state.
It is a verified audit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they don't
Except for
write-
amounts less than 5,000.
Pardon?
Except for they don't look at anything less than 5,000, so, I mean.
It depends upon the sample that they choose. Sometimes their number's under 5, sometimes they're over 5.
Okay, last question.
I want to thank the mayor and council and city staff. I think this has been one of the best city meetings we have had in quite some time, where there was open dialogue back and forth, and we all voiced our opinions, we listened respectfully, and we responded respectfully. Thank you for all of your help.
And I think Susan contrasted a very good point. We need to give the city workers a big hand for what they can do.
I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute, we have somebody else.
One more.
Thank you. I want to know where the signs to inform the neighborhood people of the meeting.
Where are the council signs?
The council signs.
Usually you're supposed to sign when there's.
And people, not everybody stays in front of these little machines that y'all have. They need to know.
Good point.
They weren't put out now.
I have not seen them.
No, the chief said this morning, we was talking about it, he forgot, where they short-handed, where David's gone helping
Oh, that's
the hurricane over in South Carolina. Normally his patrolman went out, put them out, and he was doing other things, and by the time he mentioned it to me, it was over 10 o'clock. I mean, right, but they guess.
Couple days ahead.
I've had a motion, do I have a second? For adjournment?
That's, yes.
I wasn't first, I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.